I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and here today with me is Lobo Tiggre, editor of independentspeculator.com. Thank you so much for joining me. Great to see you.
I'm happy to be back with you, Charlotte.
Always nice to be sitting with you, and today, as we were talking about just now, is Fed Day, so this is probably where we should start. They hiked by 25 basis points, and I just wanted to get your initial impressions. Does that in line what you were thinking? What does the path forward look like?
I'm almost embarrassed because, I'm anti-crystal ball, right? I don't want to pretend I'm the guru who knows the future. But I did say that this was the most likely outcome. Not a hard prediction with, I think was it 98.6, like your body temperature, the odds, the market odds, right? So actually that would have made it problematic for the Fed to do anything but. The market was not only giving them permission, it would have been a shock to the system had they done anything else. So interesting. I've been in meetings today here at Rick's conference. Here I am with you. So as so often is the case, it's not so much what the FOMC does, but Powell's jawbone afterwards. And I haven't had a chance to listen to that. So in some ways, I'm going to have to defer a little bit, but basically it looks like it's playing out as expected so far. Depending on what Powell said or how he said it, we'll see how the markets react. I will comment in my weekly digest. But I think if there's a takeaway here, the important thing to my mind for you, dear audience, is really that whatever happened this time is almost besides the point. To go from 0 to 500 basis points in a year, not only is that unprecedented, that is really huge. You really can't, it's difficult to overstate how important that is. In my view, we'll see if I'm right or I'm wrong, is that the kerfuffle with the regional banks was just an overture. The Fed not only will break things, I think they are breaking things now, and we're going to see, where the other shoe falls soon, probably by the end of this year.
And yet, as you've talked and written about the team soft landing people, they are getting louder and louder, even as we're seeing this happen. I know that you don't agree, so maybe we can go into that a little bit.
Yeah, and this is really, really important because it's not just that they're getting louder, it's investors are buying it. Like you're hearing not just economists or government, mouth persons, but you're seeing the analysts on Wall Street and the investors they listen to, the interviewers. Like team soft landing is just taking that ball, if football analogy here, they're ahead of everybody else in the field. They're running for the end zone. There's nobody that can tackle them, stop them. And it looks like right now they're about to score that game-winning touchdown. I do think this is an illusion. As we were just saying with your first question, I think the Fed is in the process of breaking things already and would have been, whatever they did in this meeting. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I think history backs me up on this. I just don't see a way that you go from such historically easing policy to, such a sharp tightening without more things busting. And they still hiked again. So, so the takeaway is that in the near term, this apparent victory that team soft landing has is actually bearish for gold. And I know that I write about copper and uranium and other things, but many in our audience are gold bugs. I'm a gold bug. So this is important to me. I don't think it's right. I think the United States is actually in recession now. The global economy certainly is. And I think that the recession deniers will be proved wrong before the end of this year. I don't normally make big predictions, but this is my expectation. I think this is the most likely outcome. And it's not a some when, someday. It's like, I'll either be right or I'll be wrong within a few months, Charlotte. So if I am right, then obviously the fear will come back and the safe haven demand will come back. But in the near term, if team soft landing seems to be right, why do I need safe haven now? And at the same time, you've got interest rates. They just hiked again. You've got interest rates, and gold doesn't pay interest, right? So you've got all these headwinds for gold as a commodity, and then you've got the safe haven demand going away. So, it's hard to be too bullish in gold in the very nearest term. Like going ahead, yes, but nearest term. Sorry, one more thing on this is just, and maybe the segues to a question you want to ask, but gold bugs are saying, well, what about central bank buying? And, maybe that is why gold has held up better in the face of headwinds that it's seen this year, because there has been all the central bank buying. But as a gold bug, do I believe in central banks? Do I trust anything they say? No. Do I want to count on central banks to save my bacon as a goldbug? No. That's asking the enemy to help me out, if you will. Now, as an investor, there are no enemies. The goal is to make money regardless. The point really is, dear audience, you really should be, A, careful what you wish for, and B, to count on central banks to be your savior of your investment thesis. That's just really risky. I wouldn't go there.
Okay, so near-term bearish on gold. I don't want to let that one slip by because that is very interesting. Can you define what we are talking about by near-term and bearish? Because, it could mean any number of things.
Yes, and since I stuck my foot in the bear trap, I need to go ahead and speak to that. My mentor, Doug Casey, always told me, if you make a prediction, say what you think will happen or say when you think things will happen, but don't say both at once, right? But no, I stuck my foot in the bear trap. So I need to say near term to me is in the coming weeks, maybe next couple of months. I think as this fall, I would be very surprised if we don't see Team Soft Landing start to go into retreat by the fourth quarter of this year, and certainly by the end of this year. Certainly, if I'm right. So yeah, this isn't a someday, somewhen hopeful thing. I'm either I'm right or I'm wrong, and we'll find out in the next few months. And to be very clear, for my dear fellow gold bugs out there, I'm not saying dump your gold stocks either. I'm saying that if there's going to be a sale coming in the next few weeks or months, why not wait for that?
I want to talk about some of the themes that I've seen coming up at this event, and one of them relates to the Fed. It's this new FedNow payment system that we're hearing a lot of talk about. So wanted to get your thoughts and the implications there. I'm hearing a lot of commentary on how perhaps this is a slippery CBDC slope. So what are your thoughts?
Basically, yes, I agree with that view. It's bad news. And on the other hand, the whole world is going in this direction. So I don't see it as investable. Like what difference is it going to make to my stock selection today that this is the way the world is going? It's one of these big ideas. You can write exciting promotions, buy my newsletter now to save yourself against the, FedCoin taking over the world. But really that doesn't inform my investment decisions today. And by the way, it will be years before that thesis can be proved correct or incorrect. So it's not useful. That said, I don't want to dismiss it either. It's not useful to me as an investor, but that doesn't mean it's unimportant. This is a bad thing that's happening in the world. And okay, so FedCoin isn't necessarily to the level of the microtransaction. They're not in my wallet yet. But it's heading that direction. And it's not so much the information, like banks reported on us anyway, know your customer, all that stuff. So it's not so much the privacy, the loss of privacy that's already gone. It's the control. It's the ability to switch your money on and off. And, we're not going to allow these transactions. And nose of the camel under the tent flap, right? Right now it's just these, it's these funds over here. It's not your chewing gum at the supermarket. It's not like that for now. So yeah, this is bad. Not an investable thing, but maybe as a voter, I would care about this issue. I think it's something people should fight. They should object to.
Okay, interesting. And I like that distinction between something that affects your life versus your investment strategy. I think that's important.
So let me just jump in on that, because I actually think this is very important. And I keep saying gold bugs, and I mean it in a loving way, but most metals and mining investors writ large, they're ideological. Most of them have a certain worldview, and it's important to them. And I think it's really important not to confuse that with the goal of making money as an investor. And that doesn't mean you don't care about these other things. It means that these should be compartmentalized. And if you want to be successful in the marketplace, the only overriding factor has to be, does this investment work? Does it make money? Does my due diligence? All the factors to the financial decision here are where you need to be focused. And then you can take a step back, after work, change hats and then think, as a person who cares about these ideas or posterity, how can I help the world push it in the right direction? Very simply, very different walks of life, and they should not be mixed, in my view.
Okay, thank you for elaborating on that. I think the other theme that I've really heard discussed here relates to the BRICS meeting next month. So August 22nd, I believe, is the date of the meeting. Maybe we get news of a new currency. Maybe it's backed by gold or other commodities. I find that there's not really too much information out there. So, you always come to us with your no hype view. So what is the no hype?
Yeah, I've been rating on this parade. Oddly enough, I've written about this as a free article on the website, and I haven't gotten any hate mail. Normally, if I take on some cherished gold bug idea, like the new gold-backed BRICS currency is going to send gold to $10,000 an ounce, right? Some enthusiasts are not so appreciative of my attempt to bring things back to earth. Takeaways, though, are, I think key points to keep in mind are that the communication that we've had from BRICS countries is contradictory. And it was Russia. I think it's important that it was Russia that said that there would be an announcement at this August meeting of a BRICS gold-backed currency, specifically not just a currency, but a gold-backed currency. Russia obviously has an interest in destabilizing its political opponents. That doesn't mean it's necessarily false, but there's a good reason to be cautious about assuming that it's true. If you really want to trust the Russians as your source of investment news, you should trust INN. But maybe even more important, okay, so Russia has a propaganda agenda. So does the United States. Everybody does. Fine. Okay. India has said they're not interested in a BRICS currency at all. Never mind gold back, but even any BRICS currency. Well, that kind of throws a bit of rain on the parade there. Not from me, not from Mr. Rain on the Parade, but from India. That's the I in BRICS. That's a big deal. And now we've got South Africa saying that it isn't even going to be discussed. It's not even on the agenda for the meeting. Now, I'm not saying that there never will be a BRICS currency. I'm not saying that even that the gold part is bunk. I actually think that makes perfect sense. If you're China and Russia and India, do you really trust each other to manage the money supply in a mutual way? I think not. I think it makes sense. If you have gold deposits in different countries that can be audited, that's exactly the role that gold can help with. It can establish trust. It's verifiable. It's visible. You can see it. They either have the gold that they claim is backing their share of the currency, or they don't, or however that mechanism works. So I actually think that this will happen. I actually think it is likely. But I also think that it's likely to take 10, 15, 20 years. Who knows? I can say for a fact, I think that's likely. I can say for a fact that I've been hearing about this idea of a possible gold-backed BRICS currency for at least 10 or 15 years. So if I'm a gold investor or a gold stock investor making decisions in the marketplace now, again, it's just not investable. Even if they announce something next month, it would be years before it actually happened. And now it looks like they're not even going to announce something. It remains this nebulous possibility out there. So to be clear, I'm not saying it won't happen. I even think it's likely to happen. But in my view, as an investor in gold stocks, silver stocks, other mining stocks, I don't think this is relevant to my investment decisions today.
Okay, so you have been emphasizing, I think in our last several discussions, about things that are happening right now. So we're going to go to the now, and I'm going to read this because you made quite a strong statement for you in your, I believe, your latest newsletter over the weekend. So you're talking about basically uranium. So because of the factors we've been discussing, you're only willing to bet on great uranium plays at this time. So for now, no gold stocks, no silver.
Not even gold.
No industrial metals, no energy.
Nothing.
Uranium.
I think the last time we spoke, I was focused on three things: gold, silver, and uranium.
Cut it down to...
And I've cut it down to just one right now. That is literally true. There's only one stock on my shopping list. A complicated story, but it's a uranium stock. And the reason for that is what we talked about earlier with Team Soft Landing appearing right. I really see that as a major threat to the gold-dollar exchange ratio in the nearest term. And I don't want to get in front of that steamroller. Silver, who knows? Silver could actually benefit from Team Soft Landing appearing right if its industrial aspect comes more into play. If not you or I, or not most of our audience, stacking silver at home, But the COMEX traders and the LME traders, those people whose futures contracts we mistakenly refer to as the price of gold or silver, and those people, if they're kind of schizophrenic, it seems now. Sometimes silver will track gold very closely, but so far this year, it's had a tighter relationship with copper. You'll see it on a weekly chart. You'll see, gold and silver will both be kind of up. But you watch the silver and copper, and they're like joined at the hip. So if that's the way the traders play it, and Team Soft Landing appears to be right, that would actually be near-term bullish for silver. But if gold sells off because we don't need no safe havens, and people suddenly decide that, oh yeah, silver is another monetary metal, it could go either way. I honestly do not know which way it will go. So that I'm not agnostic. I'm saying there's no way for me to rationally make this decision. Therefore, I'm going to step back and wait to see what happens. And industrial metals, it depends. If Team Soft Landing seems right, maybe they'll go. But there's so many recession signals out there that Team Soft Landing might be ignoring them. But I think many investors are not. From the yield curve to 27 other things. So it's very difficult for me to go into anything industrial now, or oil even. So that leaves uranium. And this won't be forever. This is I've never been in this position before where my focus is narrowed down to just one thing. But that's the way I see the markets right now. That's my mantra. Forget about inevitable, never mind about imminent even. I want happening now. And based on what's happening now, I would, and hopefully will put more money into uranium now. Everything else, I need to see how these trends go, see if I'm right or Team Soft Landing is right.
Okay, well, and that was exactly what I was going to ask. Have you ever been in this position before where it's just one single...
Never.
And not even just uranium, one single company on the list?
Oh, well, that's not to say I only own one company. I have one company on my shopping list. I don't own it yet that I want to buy. I actually own more uranium stocks now than I ever had before. It's a larger portion of my portfolio than it's ever been. It's a larger portion of the portfolios I ran for KC Research back in the day than it ever was. I really think it would take a Chernobyl-type event to derail this thesis. And it's not somewhen, it's not inevitable, it's not imminent, it's happening now. Uranium is having a better year this year than gold. It's having, most metals are down. Oil has rebounded a little bit lately, but, oil's not having a great year overall. Uranium is. And because of market skepticism, I think there's some investor capitulation out there. I don't know if that's a question you want to get into, but the stocks are still mostly relatively on sale. And I know that anybody that bought recently and they're underwater, they don't want to hear it. They want to know, they want their stocks to be up. I get it. I understand. But Mr. Market doesn't care what we want. And the fact of the situation is, I don't have facts of the future, but the fact of the situation is, the metal is going up, the stocks are sideways to down. That's an opportunity in my view.
Okay, I do have one small question on uranium that I'll sneak in here, and it's about, so we've seen the launch of this Surrey Invest, it's a physical investment vehicle, and I'm starting to hear that there are several more on the horizon of a similar nature. So just wanted to get your thoughts on those things.
Well, this was kind of an easy answer because if nothing happens, the market's already, it is what it is. The supply deficits are already there and growing. If it does, this just makes it more better for uranium bugs. And it seems just to be one of those things that it's an idea whose time has come. There's more and more people jumping on the bandwagon. Sput came along and hoovered up all those cheap pounds, and the Kazakis jumped in on the game and so on. So it makes perfect sense to me that we'll see more. Why not? As long as the metal is up, as long as there are investors that are interested in this space, I can see more. But it doesn't have to happen. And the beauty of it is that it's an optional tailwind that can only help, and its absence can't hurt. Let me just say one more thing on this. There is something new in my space, or for me in particular. One of my guys, I handed him a research project on uranium. And basically, it was just kind of, we didn't have our own one-stop shop for here's the uranium thesis. I've written many articles about it, but one piece that summarized the uranium thesis. And he not only did that and came back with a good overview and supply, demand, balance, all that. But he found, or our findings are that the low-hanging fruit, the MacArthur Rivers and the Kazakh from, ramping back up to production, and even the low-cost developers that are already responding and starting to build new mines, even if all that comes online, our new projection is that won't actually be enough to meet demand. This is a new finding for us, and we'll have this available as a free download soon, paying customers first, but we will put this out for free to the world, this report. And this matters to me. This changes my perception, because I have long been looking for this uranium surge and make money and then just get out. And I think I may even have said in an interview with you before that I expect to take profits, and probably to not just take profits and go risk-free, but actually to sell my uranium stocks and see the uranium portion of my portfolio drop to 1 or 2 or none. If you had asked me a month ago or 2 months ago, I could have said that I could see owning no uranium stocks within 2 years, because I would have, taken my money, gone to the bank with a smile on my face, and moved on to the next thing. Now, if the low-hanging fruit is not enough to meet demand, there's a much longer, more durable uranium bull thesis on the table before me. And this changes my decision-making. I am rethinking this now. What am I going to do? How am I going to play this? What do I want to hold on to longer term? It's very interesting. This is a new thing for me right now.
That is very interesting. So I would love to talk more about it when the report comes. So I'll stay tuned for that one. For now, any final thoughts that you would leave the audience with?
It's Fed Day, so it's kind of hard to say anything right now. But I guess, if you're going to be a speculator, you need to be able to roll with the punches. And this is, a little bit of a buck up talk. But I do think this is actually important. When I give workshops, one of the first things I like to say in the workshop is that the most important thing a speculator can do when they're going to decide to go into the space, which is so famously volatile, is to look at the mirror, right, and think long and hard about who you are as an investor, what your risk tolerance is, what your time frames are, what, are you looking to create wealth or to preserve wealth? And that informs a lot of your decision-making now. And, if you have a thesis and none of the data says you're wrong, you're still on board with the thesis, price alone does not tell you you're wrong. So if gold stocks are languishing, even though gold is still holding around $2,000, you're not wrong. You're not Linus waiting for the great pumpkin in the pumpkin patch. So don't give up. I see capitulation out there, which for me as a buyer is potentially great. But I feel for the people, I may be wrong, but I think we're going to see new nominal all-time highs in the gold price probably by the end of this year. And so can you imagine if you sell right before that? So, no, of course, if I'm wrong and you don't sell and it goes lower, that Lobo Tiggre guy, he made my losses worse. I don't know the future, but I'm saying what I'm doing with my own money, and I'm expecting higher prices. So for what it's worth, I wouldn't give up. I would not capitulate at this time. You're right. They're wrong.
Okay, I think that's a good note to end on. So thank you so much for coming on to talk again. Always great to hear from you.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Okay, once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com. This is Lobo Tiggre with independentspeculator.com. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment below. We'll see you next time.